Hey, is Football Manager harder for you than it has been the past couple of years? Well, I have 2 reasons why. We're talking about one in today's video, and we're going to take you from this. What is this? We just talked him out of thinking that asking price was unreasonable. To this. We had an understanding, dude. Okay, never mind. We have such a good relationship. I came to him and he's like, oh, it's fine. There are 2 ways that Football Manager has made its game harder going from the FM20, FM21 into FM22. I want to make videos about both of them, like I said, but this one is going to be about dynamics, because now that dynamics have been in the game for a couple of years, the way that you manage players, I mean, this is literally something that can make or break entire seasons, get you fired or win you the league. That is the variance that we're talking about between absolutely nailing every player interaction and completely flopping every player interaction. You know me, so I've broken this into a couple of phases, right? The phases of player interaction that we need to address. Number 1, that is the playing time interaction. Playing time interactions have always gotten more complicated because of playing time pathways and things that are just, you know, it's harder to wrap your mind around and stay on top of and that sort of thing. The second collection is going to be your generic promises collection. This covers a wide swath of things that you can accidentally do to screw yourself. And then the third section is going to be the transfer interactions, which ties into the other reason that Football Manager 22 is harder, is those transfer interactions, they're nuts. And it's not just because of the way that you're working with players, but the way they work in concert causes a lot of problems that I've been running into on my Twitch stream, which of course, if you want to check out, is down in the link in the description. And then on the way back up, you'll see a button that's called Subscribe. Clicking that does wonders for humanity, or this channel, which we would greatly appreciate so we can make more informative videos. Yeah. Maybe I'll even get a haircut. Nah, who are we kidding? So section 1, your playing time pathway management. I would like to address this off the top, that one of the first things you should do when you take over a team is go into the squad, go down to contracts and sort by agreed playing time, because you need to satisfy the demands of these players, their agreed playing time, or else you are going to have problems. The main reason that people come to me, the main reason that I end up having to sell players that I don't want to sell, is because there's a slight disagreement about how often they've been played, somebody else gets into great form, or what have you. And when I say Football Manager has made this harder, that is because this stuff is more fickle than it has been in years past. People are harder to control and appease and keep happy. Now, there are a lot of factors that will determine how quickly a player will get mad after they feel like they've had their playing time infringed. But a general rule of thumb is that if somebody is a star player, every time they are fit, they expect to be playing. If you go too far below that, you are not necessarily going to be in a good spot. Important players want to play the vast majority of the time. They will understand regular rest and rotation, though, while star players sometimes, if they are especially determined or especially fickle or controversial, there is a hidden attribute called controversy on every single one of your players. There's a controversy from 1 to 20. If they have high controversy, then that means they are more likely to just get upset about the slightest little infraction. If you have regular starters, they expect to start the majority of matches. That is generally my thought process. And so it is possible to have 2 regular starters in the team playing the same position, as long as neither one of them is somebody that gets super incredibly mad. I've been able to balance, like, if you have a 2-man midfield, having 3 midfielders that are regular starter, but past that, it could be a bit of a challenge. Now, squad players expect to feature, my general rule of thumb is 1 in every 4 or 5 games. It is actually a lower line than you would expect. Impact subs are next. Impact subs just expect to be around. And what impact these substitute appearances have, you're not really sure, but everything affects everything else in Football Manager, and so substitute appearances will help, but anything above a squad player, it's not going to help much. Fringe player and down, honestly, they don't need to play at all. Fringe players don't even need to be registered in, like, European competitions. They probably need to be registered in the league, but not European competitions. Impact subs don't even need to be registered in European competitions. That gives you an idea of how little they expect to play. How do you track how often a player is actually playing? Well, you can go to that player and go to drop down in happiness. And you see this guy that I have, Owen Vanderhorst, is only playing as a regular starter because we're rotating him out while we're in Europe. He's concerned at the amount of games he's played in, especially after missing the last match that he was available for selection. He has concerns, even though he wasn't fully fit to play in that match because he was available for selection. You can seek to change this sort of stuff, but if this pops up, then it could upset them, and it's not necessarily something you want to do. But if you find somebody else and you click that drop down and it says that it's not, you don't see any concern pop up, then you can go ahead and change that playing time. And it's something that you might want to do if you anticipate that a player's not going to play as much than you initially promised, right? Your team gets better. Somebody that signed a contract 3 years ago, they're a regular starter. You want to bring it down to squad player. And if they're a reasonable person, they will understand that. They know they're not as good as the rest of the team. It's this, relativity. Obviously, their hidden attributes will determine how likely they are to understand that. But within reason, if you go from being not Barcelona to Barcelona levels of team, somebody that wanted to be a regular starter on a mid-table team is going to accept squad player or impact sub, or honestly, you could even go down to French player on rare occasions from regular starter if your team has gotten that much better, or they feel like they've gotten old and they're not as good. Now, for other people like Owen Vanderhorst, who clearly believe they are above my club in general and the level that we're at, any indication that you're going down at all could really anger them and cause them to want to leave. Because the moment a player actually is angry with you and you go to dynamics and you see in the issues section, they're just not going to play as well. Especially when you're building a team with a great club atmosphere, everybody else is going to respond to your team talks positively. They're going to respond to your criticisms positively, and people that have issues with you, they're just not. This is why I cultivate a team with no issues. Because I'm proactively managing these playing time pathways to prevent any issues. And even I'm not getting it right. I did come across wrong to a particular Lucas Hinterseer who believed he should have been a regular starter. I was playing him at impact sub level because he was averaging a 6.55. He got pretty offended by that pretty quickly, and we ended up loaning him out so that we could get that bad influence out of the locker room. That's something I would highly recommend if you've angered somebody that you don't absolutely have to keep around your team. We wanted him to be a backup. We've loaned him out. He gets playing time. His contract's going to run out in 2 years, so I guess we're just going to loan him out again next year so we don't have to pay the wage. And he's 33, so nobody wants to buy him. Sad times. This is why you cultivate great short lists, so that if any player leaves your team, you got an automatic replacement, which we did. And Marco Juricin, another Austrian big man forward, he stepped right in for free. Now, factors that will impact how likely a player is to get upset by their misused playing time. These are what can really take things that you don't expect to be an issue and turn them all the way up to things that are a monster issue. And that's your closeness with a player. So Owen Vanderhorst is somebody I'm pretty new with. He's only been at the team for a year, but I've signed him, given him huge opportunities, and we're close. Which is probably why he has not complained already, because he has a high level of respect for me. You can go to dynamics and happiness and sort by management. You can see how they're affected by all different things. Is playing time a concern? Yes, it is for Vanderhorst, but the rest of the team is feeling okay. Training, if you guys have an issue with training, that's never something that's going to boil over into an I'm going to leave situation, while, playing time will. So how close are they? What is their hidden attribute for controversy words? It'll be in their media handling style. It'll say something like confrontational. They're volatile, right? There's dangerous media handling words that will provide a serious indication that that person is not well equipped to handle being slighted. Whereas people that are professional, people that have a better temperament, they're level-headed, they're unflappable, they're more professional. They take their lumps, they move on, they handle things in a responsible adult way more often. Thank you, Owen. We appreciate that. The absolute most important thing, you need to keep track of it. The easiest thing to do with playing time is to just lose it. And once that snowball starts, once they come to you, and then all of a sudden you go to your team captain and you're like, hey, can you talk him out of it? And you fail. And then you go to the guy and he says, I should be playing more. Things can get out of control quickly. You generally want to try and diffuse those situations. But once you get to that screen, you have to decide exactly what you want. Is this player somebody that you absolutely need? Do you need to cow down to them? Is it a player that you have big plans for the future? So maybe it's worth playing them in a few more games to appease them in the short term. So promise that you can provide that playing time, and take the lumps that maybe you get because they're starting instead of somebody else, just to keep them happy and on the team. Or like Lucas Hinterseer, you just not care and you just kind of want to get them to move on, or that you want them to either accept their situation or get mad and leave. Number 2, This section is for all of the other random promises that you can make in the game. When you're negotiating transfers, everything from we promise to finish at this point in the league, or make the European playoffs perhaps, or we promise to get into the championship group. I promise to improve the coaching staff, the midfield, the defense, all those weird promises that you can make. I only have one rule that will keep you out of trouble. Only make promises that are concrete. Only make promises that are, we will get Champions League. Boom. You know what you have to do. You will either succeed or you will fail. Only make promises that are solid. If you make promises about your coaching staff or parts of your team or bringing in a friend, all of this is rather abstract, right? There's no way you can absolutely 100% guarantee that you are going to succeed at that unless you're signing somebody's brother. And once you break a player's trust, it can come back, but it takes a while. You need a few years on that contract to ride out the storm. Then you play them regularly. And while you're playing them regularly and they don't trust you, the team talks don't have as good of an effect. So you're not getting the most out of that player. Breaking a player's trust is a disaster. You can get it back, but it takes a while. If you're inside 2 years in a contract, you should probably just sell. Maybe wait 6 months and then see if they come back. If they don't come back, then sell with a year left on their contract, something like that. Because a broken player's trust is gone, which is why I only make promises that are concrete. I've got no problem betting on myself. If a player only wants to sign if we get Champions League, fine. I'll put that in the contract if I think we can do it. But concrete, you know what you have to do. That's my recommendation. Now, number 3 is in the transfer sagas. And that is where you have this whole, like, I'm going to set the asking price for somebody, and then you put it up there and he wouldn't be happy with that asking price and goes down on the high side happy with that asking price. If you see somebody that is happy with the asking price, don't stop at the top of that, because the agent's normally wrong and they'll get upset with you anyways. So if I see it at 1.2 million, I'm probably going to settle on 900,000. 3-4 more ticks down is a safer way to do it. You have to go way down to absolutely guarantee that they won't get mad at you, but setting an asking price and offering somebody out is a very dangerous game now that could absolutely upset them. So you do not want to do that, unlike past years where you could just transfer, offer to clubs and do that with absolute impunity and they wouldn't get mad at you. If it says they get upset if you offer them out, you have to be darn sure that not only you want to sell that player, but there's interest. But now we're tailing into the second part of this 2-video series about why Football Manager is harder this year, because that has to do with wide-ranging adjustments to the way that the transfer market works that we've observed over the last 4 or 5 months. It's only been like 2 months. It's been like 2.5 months, maybe 3 months. Wow. Time does not fly. But in terms of the angering players, you do not want to set at the absolute top of the range. You don't want to go into the persuade to accept asking price. It's a very easy way to break trust with a player and have them feel like they've been treated unfairly. Very easy way. And then you instantly lose a player. I did it with Adama Traore in the network save. We offered him out. There was interest. We offered him out, set the asking price wrong, and he got mad, and now he has to leave and the interest isn't there anymore. And you just end up stuck holding on to these players that are very mad. So you need to be more sure about this than ever. You do not want to attempt to persuade unless you have a close relationship with the player at least, and you know that they are very professional. But you also don't want to persuade for something like $3 million when you know that they probably only accept $1 million or less transfer value on face value, because the agent is always overshooting and then the player will come in and say that's too much. That's just what you need to know going into this. And I highly recommend you check out the second video, which will be out a couple days after this, and I will see you there. Have a great time FMing everyone else and not getting FM'd yourself. I'll see you on stream. That sentence did make sense. Okay, we're good.